Seth Rollins. In today's video we'll learn about Seth Rollins. Going through the sections. Abstract, early life, professional wrestling career, professional wrestling style, persona and reception, other media, personal life, external links, abstract. Colby Lopez is an American professional wrestler currently signed to WWE, where he performs on the SmackDown brand under the ring name Seth Rollins. Prior to signing with WWE, Lopez wrestled under the ring name Tyler Black for Ring of Honor, ROH, and was part of the Age of the Fall stable with Jimmy Jacobs. During his time in Raw he held the Raw World Championship once and the Raw World Tag Team Championship twice with Jacobs, as well as the winner of the 2009 Survival of the Fittest tournament. He also wrestled for various independent promotions including Full Impact Pro, FIP, where he was a one-time FIP World Heavyweight Champion, as well as Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, where he was a one-time PWG World Tag Team Champion, also with Jacobs. Lopez signed with WWE in 2010 and was sent to its developmental territory Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW, where he was renamed Seth Rollins and became the inaugural FCW Grand Slam champion. After WWE rebranded FCW into NXT, he became the inaugural NXT champion. Alongside Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, he debuted on WWE's main roster at the 2012 Survivor Series as part of a faction called The Shield. He won his first main roster championship while with the group, the WWE Tag Team Championship with Reigns. Following the team's first breakup in June 2014, Rollins went on to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, WWE Universal Championship, WWE Intercontinental Championship and the WWE United States Championship. He is the 29th Triple Crown Champion and the 18th Grand Slam Champion in WWE history, and also holds the record for most title reigns with the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship, with 6. In addition, he is the 2014 Money in the Bank winner, the 2015 Superstar of the Year and the 2019 Men's Royal Rumble winner, and is the only wrestler to have held all 3 of WWE's top titles, WWE, Universal, and NXT championships. Rollins has headlined numerous major pay-per-view events for WWE, including WrestleMania 31. Industry veteran Sting, who wrestled his final match against Rollins, described him as the most talented professional wrestler he has ever seen or worked with. He was the cover athlete for video game WWE 2K18. He has been named the #1 wrestler in the world by Pro Wrestling Illustrated's PWI 500 list in both 2015 and 2019. This project compresses information gathered from Wikipedia in video format. Why should I watch it? Studies prove that reading while listening improves comprehension, increases speed as well as expands vocabulary and enhances fluency. Provide your feedback on the comments section. Support the channel by subscribing and liking the video, thanks. Early life. Colby Lopez was born on May 28, 1986, in Buffalo, Iowa. He is of Armenian, German, and Irish descent. His surname, Lopez, comes from his elder brother Brandon's Mexican-American father, whom Rollins considers his father, as seen in WWE 24. He graduated from Davenport West High School in 2004. As a teenager, he was an introvert and a big fan of rock and heavy metal music who lived a straight-edge lifestyle. Rollins trained at a wrestling school owned by Danny Daniels on the border of Chicago and Oak Park, Illinois. Professional wrestling career. Lopez made his debut in 2005, wrestling in the Iowa independent scene under the ring name Kicks. He then joined Ian Rotten's Independent Wrestling Association Mid-South, IWA, under the name Tyler Black, and entered the Ted Petty Invitational Tournament, defeating Sal Tomaselli before being eliminated by Matt Seidel in the quarterfinals in Hammond, Indiana on September 23, 2005. He soon joined NWA Midwest and won the promotion's Tag Team Championship with Mark Brave. The two successfully defended the NWA Midwest Tag Team Championship against Ryan Boz and Danny Daniels, Brett Wayne and Hype Gotti and Jason Rain and Marco Cordova several times in early 2006. He briefly appeared in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, and teamed with Jeff Luxon in a loss to the Latin American Exchange, Homicide and Hernandez, on Impact. In October 2006. On May 25, 2007, while in a match with then Full Impact Pro, FIP, tag team champions the Briscoe brothers, Jay and Mark Briscoe, in Melbourne, Florida, Black's tag team partner Mark Brave suffered a legitimate back injury, leading Black to pursue a singles career by competing in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, where he defeated Joey Ryan in his debut on June 10. At PWG's Life During Wartime on July 6, 2008, Black teamed with Jimmy Jacobs to win the PWG World Tag Team Championship by defeating Roderick Strong and El Generico, who was a replacement for Jack Evans. At FIP's event on December 20, Black defeated Go Shiozaki to win the FIP World Heavyweight Championship. At FIP's event on May 2, 2009, Davey Richards was awarded the FIP World Heavyweight Championship by forfeit when Black was unable to compete. At the Ring of Honor, ROH, pay-per-view taping of Man Up in September 2007, Black made his debut, alongside Jimmy Jacobs and Necro Butcher, with the three attacking the Briscoe brothers, and hanging Jay Briscoe from light rigging fashioned as a noose. The three formed a stable called the Age of the Fall. The angle was so controversial that Raw decided to remove the footage from the pay-per-view that was being taped at the event. Black later made his Raw in-ring debut later that night in a dark match, wrestling Jack Evans to a no contest. At Glory by Honor via November, Black defeated Alex Sugarfoot Payne, but was attacked by the Briscoe brothers following the match. He appeared with the Age of the Fall in their match against the Briscoe brothers during the main event. At Final Battle in December, Black and Jacobs defeated the Briscoe brothers to win the Raw World Tag Team Championship. They lost the championship 1 month later on January 26, 2008 to the No Remorse Corps, Davey Richards and Rocky Romero, when competing in an Ultimate Endurance match also involving the Hangman 3, Brent Albright and B.J. Whitmer, and the team of Austin Aries and Bryan Danielson. At Take No Prisoners, Raw's sixth pay-per-view, Black challenged Nigel McGuinness for the Raw World Championship in a losing effort. At Up for Grabs, Black and Jacobs won an 8-team tournament to win the Raw World Tag Team Championship for a second time. The two lost the championship at Driven to the team of Kevin Steen and El Generico. Black had a second chance at the Raw World Championship at Death Before Dishonor via New York City, when he faced McGuinness, Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli in a four-way elimination match, but McGuinness retained the title. At Final Battle in December 2008, after Black lost a number 1 contender match to Austin Aries, Jacobs turned on him, and Black was then attacked by Aries. At Full Circle, Black was given a non-title match against then Raw World Champion Nigel McGuinness on January 16, 2009 where Black was victorious. The following night, Black faced McGuinness in a title match, which ended in a time-limit draw. On June 26 at Violent Tendencies, Black defeated Jimmy Jacobs in a steel cage match to end their feud. In September 2009, Black took a hiatus after receiving surgery on his neck. On October 10, Black defeated Kenny King in a first-round match and then Claudio Castagnoli, Colt Cabana, Delirious, Chris Hero and Roderick Strong in the finals to win the 2009 Survival of the Fittest tournament, which earned him a match for the Raw World Championship. On December 19 at Final Battle 2009, Raw's first live pay-per-view, Black wrestled then Raw World Champion Austin Aries to a 60-minute time-limit draw. Because of this draw, then Raw Commissioner Jim Cornette booked the two in a rematch between February 13, 2010 for the company's 8th anniversary show. The booking saw Cornette set up a judging panel with himself on and one person picked by each competitor, in order for there to be a decisive winner in case of another draw. Aries picked Kenny King while Black picked Roderick Strong, whom he guaranteed in Raw World Championship title shot should he win. At the event, Black pinned Aries to win the Raw World Championship. On April 3, Black retained the title in a three-way elimination match against Austin Aries and Roderick Strong at the Big Bang pay-per-view. He also retained the title on June 19 at the following pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor 8, in a match against Davey Richards. Black turned into a villain at the August 20 tapings of Ring of Honor Wrestling after news broke that he had signed a developmental contract with World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. He threatened to take the Raw World Championship with him to WWE and refused to put the championship at stake in a match with Davey Richards on August 28, which he then lost by submission. On September 11 at Glory by Honor 9, in his final Raw appearance, Black lost the Raw World Championship to Roderick Strong in a no disqualification match with Terry Funk as a guest enforcer, ending his reign at 210 days after 7 successful title defenses. On August 8, 2010, Lopez signed a developmental contract with WWE and was assigned to their developmental territory Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW, in September. On September 14, Black made his WWE debut in a dark match prior to the SmackDown taping by defeating Trent Barreta. Lopez debuted for FCW on September 30 under the name Seth Rollins, in a loss to Michael McGillicuddy. Rollins then faced Unico on November 4 in the first ever FCW 15 match under 15-minute Iron Man rules where they fought to a 11 draw. Following this, Rollins, along with Unico, Richie Steamboat, and Jinder Mahal, participated in the FCW 15 Jack Briscoe Classic Tournament. On January 13, 2011, Rollins defeated Unico in the finals to win the tournament and became the inaugural FCW Jack Briscoe 15 champion. On March 25 at a house show, Rollins and Richie Steamboat defeated Damian Sandow and Titus O'Neil in the FCW Florida Tag Team Championship. Rollins and Steamboat eventually lost the championship to Big E Langston and Calvin Reigns. In July 2011, Rollins began a feud with Dean Ambrose. Ambrose and Rollins had their first match for the FCW 15 Championship in a 15-minute Iron Man match on the August 14 episode of FCW, which ended in a draw with neither men scoring a fall and, as a result, Rollins retained his title. A subsequent 20-minute rematch for the title 2 weeks later resulted in a similar 0-0 draw. A second 30-minute rematch for the title on the September 18 episode of FCW went to a time-limit 22 draw and the match was sent into sudden death overtime, where Rollins scored a pinfall to win the match 32. On September 22, Rollins lost the FCW 15 championship to Damian Sandow by disqualification after Ambrose attacked Sandow late in the match. On February 23, 2012, Rollins defeated Leo Kruger to become the new FCW Florida Heavyweight Champion. Rollins lost the championship to Rick Victor at a house show on May 31. When WWE rebranded FCW into NXT in August 2012, Rollins' NXT TV debut took place on the second episode of the rebooted NXT at Full Sail University on June 27, when he defeated Jiro. Rollins entered the Gold Rush tournament to crown the inaugural NXT champion where he defeated Jinder Mahal in the tournament finals on the August 29 episode of NXT. On the October 10 episode of NXT, Rollins had his first successful defense of his title after he beat Michael McGillicuddy. On November 18, 2012, at the Survivor Series pay-per-view event, Rollins made his main roster debut as a heel alongside Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, attacking Ryback during the Triple Threat main event for the WWE Championship, allowing CM Punk to pin John Cena and retain the title. The trio declared themselves the Shield, vowed to rally against injustice and denied working for Punk, but they routinely emerged from the crowd to attack Punk's adversaries. This led to a tables, ladders and chairs match being set up for the TLC, Tables, Ladders and Chairs pay-per-view event, where Ambrose, Rollins and Reigns defeated Team Hell No, Daniel Bryan and Kane, and Ryback in their WWE debut match. While in the Shield, Rollins continued to appear on NXT and defend the NXT Championship, until he eventually lost the championship to Big E Langston on the January 9, 2013 episode of NXT. The Shield continued to aid Punk after TLC, attacking both Ryback and The Rock in January 2013. It was revealed on the January 28 episode of Raw that Punk and his manager Paul Heyman had been paying The Shield and Brad Maddox to work for them all along. The Shield then quietly ended their association with Punk while beginning a feud with John Cena, Ryback and Sheamus that led to a six-man tag match on February 17 at Elimination Chamber, which The Shield won. The Shield then faced Sheamus, Big Show and Randy Orton at WrestleMania 29, where The Shield emerged victorious in their first WrestleMania match. The following night on Raw, The Shield attempted to attack The Undertaker, but were stopped by Team Hell No. This set up a six-man tag team match on the April 22 episode of Raw, which The Shield won. On the May 13 episode of Raw, The Shield's undefeated streak in televised six-man tag team matches ended in a disqualification loss in a six-man elimination tag team match against John Cena, Kane, and Daniel Bryan. On May 19 at Extreme Rules, Rollins and Reigns defeated Team Hell No in a tornado tag team match to win the WWE Tag Team Championship. On the June 14 episode of SmackDown, The Shield suffered their first decisive loss in televised six-man tag team matches against Team Hell No and Randy Orton when Bryan made Rollins submit. Rollins and Reigns then successfully retained the WWE Tag Team Championship against Bryan and Orton at Payback on June 13. In August, The Shield began working for Chief Operating Officer Triple H and The Authority. Rollins and Reigns also successfully defended their titles against the Usos during the Money in the Bank pre-show and against the primetime players, Darren Young and Titus O'Neil, at Night of Champions. At Battleground in October, the recently kayfabe fired Cody Rhodes and Goldust reclaimed their jobs back by beating Rollins and Reigns in a non-title match. On the October 14 episode of Raw, Rollins and Reigns lost the WWE Tag Team Championship to Cody Rhodes and Goldust in a no disqualification match following interference from Big Show. At Hell in a Cell on October 27, Rollins and Reigns failed to regain the titles in a triple threat match also involving the Usos. The following month at Survivor Series, The Shield teamed with Antonio Cesaro and Jack Swagger to take on Rey Mysterio, the Usos, Cody Rhodes and Goldust in a traditional Survivor Series match. Although Rollins was eliminated by Mysterio, Reigns would later win the match for the team. At TLC, Tables, Ladders and Chairs on December 15, The Shield lost to CM Punk in 3-on-1 handicap match after Reigns accidentally speared Ambrose. At the Royal Rumble on January 26, 2014, Rollins entered his first Royal Rumble match at number 2, gaining 3 eliminations before being eliminated himself by teammate Reigns. The next night on Raw, The Shield competed against Daniel Bryan, Sheamus and John Cena in a 6-man tag team qualifying match to enter the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but lost the match via disqualification after the Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, interfered and attacked Cena, Bryan, and Sheamus. The Shield wanted revenge in a 6-man tag team match against the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber on February 23 was arranged, in which The Shield lost. Later in March, The Shield began a feud with Kane, turning face in the process. At WrestleMania 30 on April 6, The Shield defeated Kane and the New Age Outlaws, thus winning their second WrestleMania match as a group. The Shield then feuded with Triple H, the COO of WWE and leader of the Authority, who then reformed Evolution with Batista and Randy Orton to take on The Shield. The Shield defeated Evolution at Extreme Rules and again at Payback in a no-holds-barred elimination match, in which no members of The Shield were eliminated. On the June 2 episode of Raw, Rollins turned on Ambrose and Reigns to rejoin the Authority, turning heel once again. He then entered himself into the Money in the Bank ladder match at the titular event, which he won after Kane interfered. Rollins defeated Ambrose twice, the first being at Battleground in July via forfeit after their match was called off by Triple H after a pre-match attack by Ambrose on Rollins backstage, and the second in August at SummerSlam in a lumberjack match after hitting him with his Money in the Bank briefcase following interference from Kane. The following night on Raw, Rollins defeated Ambrose once again in a Falls Count Anywhere match by referee stoppage after Kane interfered again and helped Rollins execute a curb stomp on Ambrose through cinder blocks, giving him a kayfabe injury. In September, Rollins began feuding with Roman Reigns and a match between the two was set up for Night of Champions, but Reigns developed a legitimate incarcerated hernia which required surgery prior to the event, resulting in Rollins being declared the winner via forfeit, before being attacked by a returning Ambrose. Shortly after, Rollins adopted Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury as bodyguards, later being named J&J Security. The feud between Rollins and Ambrose culminated at Hell in a Cell, where Rollins defeated Ambrose in a Hell in a Cell match after Bray Wyatt interfered and attacked Ambrose. Following Hell in a Cell, tension began growing between Rollins and Randy Orton due to the Authority's preferential treatment of Rollins, leading to a singles match between the two on the November 3 episode of Raw, which Rollins won. After the match, Orton attacked the Authority but was overpowered, resulting in Rollins performing a curb stomp on Orton onto the steel ring steps, kayfabe injuring him. At Survivor Series on November 23, Rollins captained Team Authority in a 5-on-5 elimination tag team match against Team Cena, in which Rollins was the sole survivor for his team and the last man eliminated by Dolph Ziggler, resulting in the Authority being ousted from control of WWE. Rollins continued his feud with Cena in December at TLC, Tables, Ladders and Chairs in a tables match, which was won by Cena. On the January 5, 2015 episode of Raw, the Authority regained control over WWE. Rollins competed in a triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Cena and champion Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble later that month, which Lesnar won after pinning Rollins. At Fastlane, Rollins, Big Show and Kane defeated the team of Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan and Ryback. However, after the match, Randy Orton returned and attacked Noble, Mercury, and Kane, while Rollins fled the arena. After weeks of teasing a reunion with the Authority, Orton eventually attacked Rollins, which led to a match between the two at WrestleMania 31 on March 29, which Rollins lost. Later that night, Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank contract during Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns' WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, turning it into a triple threat match and pinned Reigns to win the title for the first time in his career. This made Rollins the first man to cash in his Money in the Bank contract at WrestleMania and during a title match. Rollins continued his feud with Orton after WrestleMania, which led to a steel cage match for the championship with Kane residing as special guest gatekeeper at Extreme Rules on April 26, where Rollins retained after interference from the latter. In May, tension rose between Rollins and Kane after the latter scheduled a title defense against Orton and Reigns for Payback. When Ambrose defeated Rollins in a non-title match on the May 4 episode of Raw, he was added to the match, therefore making it a fatal four-way match which Rollins won after pinning Orton. Rollins then retained the championship against Ambrose on May 31 at Elimination Chamber after getting himself disqualified. Rollins again retained over Ambrose at Money in the Bank in a ladder match. At Battleground on July 19, Rollins retained the championship by disqualification against Brock Lesnar after The Undertaker interfered and attacked Lesnar. In August, Rollins continued his feud with United States champion John Cena. He defeated Cena in a winner-takes-all match at SummerSlam on August 23 for both the WWE World Heavyweight and the United States Championships after interference from Jon Stewart. With the win, Rollins became the first and only wrestler to hold both championships simultaneously until he went on to lose the United States Championship back to Cena at Night of Champions on September 20, but was able to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Sting later that night. On October 25 at Hell in a Cell, Rollins successfully defended the championship against Kane and per the match stipulation, Kane was fired as Director of Operations. On November 4 during a TCH against Kane at a WWE Live event in Dublin, Ireland, Rollins tore the ACL, MCL and medial meniscus in his knee while attempting to execute a sunset flip powerbomb. The injury required surgery and it was estimated it would take Rollins out of action for approximately 6 to 9 months, therefore he was forced to vacate the WWE World Heavyweight Championship the next day, ending his reign at 220 days. On the December 21 episode of Raw, Rollins made a special appearance to accept his Slammy Award for 2015 Superstar of the Year. At Extreme Rules on May 22, 2016, Rollins returned from injury to attack Roman Reigns with a pedigree after his WWE World Heavyweight Championship defense against AJ Styles. The following night on Raw, Shane McMahon scheduled a match between Reigns and Rollins for the title at Money in the Bank. Meanwhile, multiple wrestling critics and analysts wondered if WWE was leaving money on the table by not slotting Rollins as a fan favorite and then negatively received Reigns as a villain. At Money in the Bank on June 19, Rollins defeated Reigns to win his second WWE World Heavyweight Championship, thus also becoming the first wrestler to legitimately defeat Reigns in singles competition on the main roster, only to lose the championship minutes later to Dean Ambrose, who cashed in the Money in the Bank contract he won earlier that night. In July, Rollins failed to regain the renamed WWE Championship from Ambrose multiple times on both Raw and SmackDown. In the 2016 WWE Draft on July 19, Rollins was drafted to Raw as the brand's first draft pick. At Battleground on July 24, Rollins unsuccessfully competed in a triple threat match against Ambrose and Reigns for the newly renamed WWE World Championship, which became exclusive to the SmackDown brand. Because of this, the WWE Universal Championship was introduced the following night on Raw. Rollins competed in the inaugural title match against Finn Balor at SummerSlam on August 21, in which he was defeated by Balor. After Balor relinquished the title the following night on Raw due to a legit shoulder injury sustained at SummerSlam, Rollins faced Big Cass, Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns in a four-way elimination match for the title, but Triple H interfered and attacked Rollins, allowing Owens to win the championship. On the September 5 episode of Raw, Rollins attacked Owens during his celebration ceremony, turning face for the first time since 2014. Rollins failed to win the title from Owens at Clash of Champions and Hell in a Cell, due to several interferences from Chris Jericho. At Survivor Series in November, Rollins formed part of Team Raw with an Owens, Jericho, Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns in a losing effort to Team SmackDown. The next month at Roadblock, End of the Line, Rollins defeated Jericho. In January 2017, Rollins started a feud with Triple H leading into WrestleMania. On January 28, Rollins appeared at NXT TakeOver, San Antonio, interrupting the show and demanding to confront Triple H, who came out only to order security to remove Rollins from the ring. On the January 30th episode of Raw, Rollins confronted Stephanie McMahon and once again called out Triple H, demanding answers for his betrayal. Later that night, Rollins was ambushed from behind by the debuting Samoa Joe, who choked him out in the Coquina Clutch. Rollins later signed a contract to compete against Triple H in a non-sanctioned match at WrestleMania 33. Rollins emerged victorious at the event. After WrestleMania, Rollins defeated Samoa Joe at Payback on April 30 to give Joe his first singles loss on the main roster. At Extreme Rules on June 4, Rollins competed in a fatal five-way Extreme Rules match to determine the number one contender to the WWE Universal Championship, also involving Blair, Joe, Reigns, and Wyatt, which was won by Joe. On the July 10 episode of Raw, Rollins saved former stablemate and longtime rival Dean Ambrose from an attack by The Miz and the Miztourage, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. After failing to gain Ambrose's trust for several weeks, the two argued in the ring on the August 14 episode of Raw and eventually brawled with each other before fighting off Cesaro and Sheamus, reuniting the team in the process. At SummerSlam on August 20, Ambrose and Rollins defeated Cesaro and Sheamus to win the Raw Tag Team Championship. Rollins and Ambrose successfully defended the titles against Cesaro and Sheamus at No Mercy in September. On the October 9 of Raw, the whole Shield officially reunited to battle The Miz and Miztourage, Cesaro and Sheamus and Braun Strowman, all of whom were common enemies amongst the members. The Shield was then scheduled to compete in their first match as a unit since June 2014, against the team of Strowman, Cesaro, Kane, The Miz and Sheamus on October 22 at TLC in a 5-on-3 handicap tables, ladders and chairs match, but health issues kept Reigns out of action. He was replaced by Kurt Angle. Ambrose, Rollins and Angle went on to win the match. Ambrose and Rollins were scheduled to face SmackDown Tag Team Champions the Usos in a non-title match at Survivor Series, but they lost the title back to Cesaro and Sheamus on the November 6 episode of Raw due to SmackDown's The New Day distracting the champions, ending their reign at 78 days. This led to a match between The Shield and The New Day at Survivor Series on November 19, which The Shield won. In December, Ambrose suffered a torn biceps, sidelining him for approximately 9 months, putting The Shield on hiatus. On the December 25 episode of Raw, Rollins teamed with Jason Jordan and defeated Cesaro and Sheamus to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. At the Royal Rumble on January 28, Rollins entered at number 18 in the Royal Rumble match, but he was eliminated by Reigns. Right after the Royal Rumble match, Rollins and Jordan lost the tag team titles to Cesaro and Sheamus, ending their reign at 34 days. Rollins and Jordan's tag team dissolved on February 6 after Jordan had neck surgery. On the February 19 episode of Raw, Rollins competed in a 7-man gauntlet match, where he eliminated Roman Reigns in the first and then John Cena in the second fall, before he was eliminated by Elias. Rollins wrestled for 1 hour and 5 minutes, which is the longest performance in a match by any wrestler in the show's history. 6 days later, at the Elimination Chamber, Rollins was the 5th man eliminated by Braun Strowman in the Elimination Chamber match. On April 8 at WrestleMania 34, Rollins defeated Finn Balor and The Miz in a triple threat match to win the Intercontinental Championship for the first time in his career. With his win, Rollins became the 29th Triple Crown Champion and the 18th Grand Slam Champion in WWE history, respectively. After he defeated The Miz in a rematch at Backlash on May 6, Rollins went on to defend the title on numerous occasions, including several open challenges. At the end of May, Rollins started a feud with Elias, who attacked him with his guitar after Rollins interrupted his performance. The two eventually faced off for the Intercontinental Championship at the Money in the Bank on June 17, where Rollins prevailed. The following night on Raw, Rollins dropped the championship to Dolph Ziggler after a distraction by Ziggler's ally Drew McIntyre, ending his reign at 71 days. Ziggler retained against Rollins on several occasions, including in a 30-minute Iron Man match at Extreme Rules after interference from McIntyre, but at SummerSlam, Rollins defeated Ziggler to regain the championship, after enlisting the help of a returning Dean Ambrose. The next on Raw, Rollins reformed the Shield with Ambrose and Roman Reigns, preventing Braun Strowman from cashing in his Money in the Bank contract for the Universal Championship against Reigns. At Hell in a Cell in September, Rollins and Ambrose failed to win the Raw Tag Team Championship from McIntyre and Ziggler. At Super Showdown on October 6, The Shield defeated McIntyre, Ziggler and Strowman in a six-man tag team match. However, 2 nights later on Raw, The Shield was defeated by the same trio in a rematch, with Ambrose walking away from his teammates after their defeat. On the October 22 episode of Raw, Reigns took a hiatus due to his returning leukemia. Later that night, Rollins and Ambrose defeated Ziggler and McIntyre to win the Raw Tag Team Championship, making Rollins a double champion, only for Ambrose to turn on Rollins as he attacked him, igniting a feud between the two and disbanding the Shield once again. Rollins and Ambrose's reign as Raw Tag Team Champions was ended on the November 5 episode of Raw, when Rollins lost a handicap match to a common racer. 2 weeks later, on November 18, at Survivor Series, Rollins defeated United States champion Shinsuke Nakamura in an interbrand champion vs. champion match. Towards the end of the year, Rollins continued feuding with Ambrose, which led to a title match on December 16 at the TLC pay-per-view, where Ambrose defeated Rollins and ended his reign at 119 days. Going into 2019, Rollins failed to regain the championship from Ambrose on several occasions, including in a Falls Count Anywhere match when Bobby Lashley interfered, and in a triple threat match in which Lashley won the championship after pinning Ambrose. On January 27 at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, Rollins won his first Royal Rumble match by lastly eliminating Braun Strowman. The following night on Raw, Rollins challenged Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 35. Soon after, Rollins reconciled with Ambrose and the recently returned Reigns to reform the Shield for the third time. The trio defeated the team of Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin at Fastlane. At WrestleMania 35 in April, Rollins defeated Lesnar to win the Universal Championship for the first time. Rollins then entered a feud with AJ Styles, facing him in a match for the Universal Championship at Money in the Bank in May, in which Rollins retained. Rollins successfully defended the title against Corbin at Super Showdown and Stomping Grounds in June. The latter title defense featured Lacey Evans as special guest referee. He won with assistance of his real-life girlfriend and Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch to overcome Evans' biased refereeing. Rollins teamed up with Lynch and defeated Corbin and Evans at Extreme Rules in a winner-takes-all Extreme Rules match mixed tag team match. Afterwards, Rollins lost the title to Lesnar, who cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, ending his reign at 98 days. The following night on Raw, Rollins won a 10-man battle royal for the right to face Lesnar for the championship at SummerSlam by last eliminating Randy Orton. At the event, Rollins defeated Lesnar to regain the championship, making him the second wrestler to hold the Universal Championship more than once. He also became the only superstar to defeat Lesnar at both WrestleMania and SummerSlam. On the August 19 episode of Raw, Rollins won his record-tying 5th Raw Tag Team Championship along with Braun Strowman when they defeated Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. At Clash of Champions, Rollins and Strowman lost the titles to the team of Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Later that night, Rollins successfully defended the Universal Championship against Strowman in the main event, but was attacked by The Fiend Bray Wyatt after the match. At Hell in a Cell, Rollins defended his title against The Fiend in a Hell in a Cell match that ended in referee stoppage after The Fiend was buried under several weapons and hit with a sledgehammer by Rollins. After that, Rollins was then made captain for Team Hogan at Crown Jewel. However, he was removed when he was then scheduled in a rematch against Wyatt for the Universal Championship in a Falls Count Anywhere match. At the event, Rollins lost the title to The Fiend, ending his second reign at 80 days. In November, Rollins was selected as the captain for Team Raw at Survivor Series, against Team SmackDown and Team NXT. At the event, Team SmackDown was victorious in the main event match. After this, Rollins turned heel for the first time since 2016, and began dubbing himself as the Monday Night Messiah while stating that he was sacrificing his opponents for the greater good. He would also create a faction with a common racer, and Buddy Murphy, and the group would attack and brutalize the likes of Rey Mysterio, Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens over the following weeks. Rollins won the Raw Tag Team Championship with Murphy on the January 20, 2020 episode of Raw after defeating the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, becoming a record 6-time champion. Rollins competed in the 2020 Royal Rumble match as the final entrant, but was eliminated by the eventual winner Drew McIntyre. Rollins and Murphy successfully defended the Tag Team Championship against the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, at Super Showdown on February 27, but lost the titles to them on the March 2 episode of Raw. Rollins and Murphy failed to reclaim the championship from the Street Profits at Elimination Chamber 6 days later. At WrestleMania 36 on April 5, Rollins faced Kevin Owens in no disqualification match, which Rollins lost. Following this, Rollins began a rivalry with Drew McIntyre over the WWE Championship, leading to a match between the two at Money in the Bank in May, which Rollins lost. The next night on Raw, Rollins attacked Rey Mysterio and injured his eye with the steel ring steps. On the May 18 episode of Raw, Rollins recruited Austin Theory as a new member of his faction. Mysterio eventually returned and challenged Rollins to an eye-for-an-eye match where the only way to win was to extract the opponent's eyeball. The match would take place at the Horror Show at Extreme Rules on July 19, where Rollins was victorious after using the ring steps to remove Mysterio's eye. Over the next coming weeks, Rey Mysterio's son Dominic would confront Rollins about the attacks on both him and his father. At SummerSlam, Rollins defeated Dominic in a street fight. The following night on Raw, a tag team match was set up between Rollins and Murphy against Rey and Dominic Mysterio at Payback. At the event, Rollins and Murphy were defeated by Rey and Dominic. On the October 5 episode of Raw, Murphy attacked Rollins after he refused to apologize to him, thus ending their alliance. As part of the 2020 WWE Draft in October, Rollins was drafted to the SmackDown brand. On the November 20 episode of SmackDown, Rollins was defeated by Murphy to end the feud. At Survivor Series, Rollins competed in the Survivor Series match as part of Team SmackDown, but he was the first person eliminated by Sheamus after sacrificing himself. His team would also go on to lose the match. Following this, Rollins would go on paternity leave for the birth of his first child. Professional wrestling style, persona and reception. Part of his WWE ring name is a tribute to former Black Flag singer Henry Rollins. During his time in FCW, Rollins used a superkick to a kneeling opponent called Avada Kedavra as a finisher. Rollins has known to use his current and most notable finisher, the curb stomp, for most of his career. However, Rollins was prohibited from using the curb stomp shortly after his WWE World Heavyweight Championship victory at WrestleMania 31 in March 2015, as WWE Chairman Vince McMahon thought it was a cruel move for their top champion. However, Rollins resumed use of the move in January 2018. During the interim time, he adopted Triple H's pedigree as his finishing maneuver to replace the curb stomp. In April 2017, he introduced a new finishing move, a jumping knee strike called the ripcord knee. Throughout his time as a member of The Shield, before the team initially dispersed, his character was that of an outspoken hothead who will do crazy things to help The Shield. After turning into a villain and aligning himself with Op in late 2019, Rollins began to dub himself Monday Night Messiah and allude himself to Jesus while debuting a new entrance theme to go along with the new character. He also began recruiting new disciples into his group such as Murphy and Austin Theory, proclaiming himself to be their leader and savior. In mid-2019, Rollins received attention for his social media activities and public comments. In June, Rollins received criticism for his interaction with fellow wrestler Will Ospreay on Twitter, who Rollins referenced as Little Guy and urged to compare bank accounts with him. He apologized in early July, calling the tweets garbage and not in line with my values. He later publicly called wrestler Jon Moxley presumptuous for criticizing WWE following his departure from the company, as well as regarding professional wrestling promotion All Elite Wrestling as the minor leagues. In November, Rollins publicly refuted a story published by the Wrestling Observer newsletter, WON, that claimed that he spoke during a backstage meeting prior to an episode of Raw. The publication later issued a retraction and an apology to Rollins. In the same year, Rollins' character notably drew criticisms from audiences and critics, particularly after he retained the Universal Championship over The Fiend Bray Wyatt by a referee stoppage at the Hell in a Cell event in October of that year, which was received negatively by the live crowd and also by critics. Sports journalist Dave Meltzer, who is known for assigning star ratings to wrestling matches, rated the match -2 stars out of 5, making it among the lowest-rated matches Meltzer has reviewed. Meltzer also described it as perhaps the worst main event in pro wrestling history, where the fault doesn't at all lie in either of the competitors. Bleacher Report subsequently stated that the negative reaction was a response against a character that has become too bland, one-dimensional and unlikable for fans to continue supporting. Following Rollins' villainous character change shortly after his feud with Wyatt, the New York Post hypothesized that WWE had no choice but to turn Seth Rollins heel, even though it doesn't absolve WWE from blame for needing to make the switch. Rollins' match against Wyatt at Hell in a Cell was later recognized as the worst match of the year by readers of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with their feud also being named Worst Feud of the Year. The Hell in a Cell match was also awarded the Gooker Award by satirical wrestling website WrestleCrap, an annual booby prize dedicated to the worst wrestling moment of the year. Other media. Rollins is regularly featured on Xavier Woods' YouTube channel Up Down Down, where he goes by the nickname The Champ. In August 2019, Rollins won a number 1 contenders tournament to challenge Samoa Joe for the Up Down Down championship. He defeated Joe in a game of track and field 2 to win the championship. In October, in his first and only defense, Rollins lost the championship to Becky Lynch in Marvel vs. Capcom, Infinite. Personal life. Lopez resides in Moline, Illinois. He is an atheist and a fan of the Chicago Bears and St. Louis Cardinals. In 2014, Lopez and his former tag team partner Mark Brave started the Black and the Brave Wrestling Academy, a professional wrestling school in Moline. In February 2019, Lopez opened a coffee shop called 329 Deport in his hometown of Davenport, Iowa. On February 9, 2015, a nude photo of former NXT wrestler Zara Schreiber, reportedly Lopez's girlfriend, was posted to his social media accounts, the contents of which are automatically republished by WWE.com. Soon after, nude photos of Lopez were posted on the Twitter page of his then-fiancée, Layla Schultz. In response, Lopez apologized for private photographs that were distributed without consent. On February 25, 2016, Lopez revealed that he had broken up with Schreiber, but did not say what caused the split. After months of speculation, it was confirmed on May 13, 2019, that Lopez was in a relationship with fellow WWE wrestler Rebecca Quinn, better known as Becky Lynch. WWE subsequently acknowledged the relationship on their website. The couple announced their engagement on August 22, 2019. On September 10, 2019, Lopez found out that he had a brother and a sister after taking a DNA test. On May 11, 2020, it was announced on Raw that Lopez and Quinn are expecting their first child together. On December 4, Quinn and Lopez welcomed their first daughter, named Rue.